Hey guys, Dave with First Place Auto Parts, and classic trucks are hugely popular right now. Look, these things are infinitely usable and you can take them to a car show too. Look, we've done a lot of research and we've done some videos on square bodies and they are very cool. But the next generation of truck, the ones finally called the OBS trucks, made from 1988 all the way up to 1998. In the case of the Tahoe, Suburban, and Yukon made to 2000, look, this is the front edge trucks that we would consider to be new and infinitely drivable. Look, these things you could actually drive every day and pay no penalties for driving a classic truck. In today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the OBS trucks to better understand what makes them unique and makes that daily driving experience just to be a little bit better than the square bodies, but also some things that you should look out for when you consider buying one for yourself. So in today's video, we're talking OBS trucks. Hey guys, if you like today's video, please consider subscribing to the First Place Auto Parts YouTube channel. We're going to continually be adding new videos every week, and we go to some pretty cool car guy stuff I'm pretty sure you're going to want to see. Now, internally at General Motors, the OBS series trucks was called the GMT 400. That was the internal designation for these trucks. And look, these things were really on the front edge of being absolutely usable by everybody, driven by your wife to the grocery store or used to pull a trailer. The GMT 400, the OBS truck, was here to stay, and it really shaped General Motors trucks even to this day. Comfort and ease of use due to fuel injection and overdrive transmissions combined with a sleeker, more aerodynamic body produced a truck that looks and performs like modern trucks. With that said, the OBS truck still has one foot firmly planted in the good old truck days with rugged good looks and capabilities. Now, as enthusiasts and insiders in the automotive aftermarket, we throw around words like square body, OBS, NBS, with freedom. For you that don't know, OBS stands for older body style. Now, as a square body truck owner myself, I find it kind of ironic because I consider the OBS not to be the older body style, but the actual enthusiasts have started tagging this thing as OBS trucks. And the truck that followed it in 1999 all the way through 2006 was called the NBS, which stands for New Body Style. Now, this is all relevant, right? We're talking classic trucks here, being that it's 2021, but that's what these things call. So when we call it the 88 through 98 trucks OBS, it stands for the older body style. Just wanted to get that clear up front because the naming game can be a little confusing at times for those just getting into the segment or into the market. Now, the OBS trucks were a huge leap forward for General Motors, and not only creature comforts, but also mechanically, things that led to the ability to be daily driven. Interior-wise, the OBS trucks got much more comfortable bench seats, and you could even get bucket seats with a center console. The materials were upgraded as well. No longer was it just basic vinyl. You could get cloth or even leather. The dash itself, it got more car-like looking with better instrumentations, but mechanically it's where the OBS trucks really started to come into their own. The four-wheel drive trucks was the first time in the OBS where they got rid of the solid front axle and the leaf springs. Instead, they used independent front suspension and coil springs and torsion bars for a much better ride. No longer did you have to pay a penalty for owning a four-wheel drive truck. Also, shift on the fly for the four-wheel drives became a reality. You used to have to get outside and manually lock the front hubs. Well, I enjoyed that. There was something about locking in your front hubs that made you feel like you were doing something, but shift on the fly was really nice, especially if you got caught in ice or snow when you're traveling on the interstate. Also, another thing that they did from a safety perspective with the OBS trucks is they moved the fuel tanks from outside of the frame to inboard or inside the frame. The square body trucks that preceded the OBS trucks, they had their gas tank mounted between the outer bed and the inner frame rail. So what happened in an accident, a lot of times that tank became very susceptible to not only being hit, but also punctured, leading to a fire hazard. So GM wisely moved the gas tanks inside of the frame rails. And finally, perhaps one of the biggest things for me, the mechanical changes, because I owned one of these trucks, was the inclusion of an overdrive transmission. Like, overdrive transmissions made pickup trucks infinitely drivable. Like, pickup trucks typically had deep rear end gear ratios for being able to pull trailers. Trucks before the OBSs, look, they may have had 180 horsepower. They just weren't that powerful, so they needed really deep gears to be able to either haul a payload in the bed or pull a trailer. With the OBS trucks and that deep first gear that the overdrive transmissions gave you, the ability to drive on the interstate and have low engine RPMs. Not only did it reduce the interior noise of the truck, but it took a lot of the wear and tear out of the motor, like the valve train and the pistons and things of that nature just weren't moving that fast. Where we used to turn 3,000 RPMs going at 60 miles an hour with a turbo 400 transmission and a 410 gear, now you were turning maybe 1,400 RPMs at 70 miles an hour with a still capable rear gear ability to pull a trailer or a payload. So overdrive transmissions were a huge leap forward. The downside, they didn't really improve gas mileage all that much. Look, the throttle body fuel injected engines that the OBS trucks had, they were good engines, but they just weren't that efficient yet. The overdrive transmissions though, they were a long step or made a big leap forward in the ability to drive one of these trucks daily. Now, to quote a certain movie called Forrest Gump, life was not a complete box of chocolates with the OBS trucks. And if you're considering buying one of the things that you have to look out for is rust, especially if you live in a northern climate. Look, rust, even though these bodies were better prepared and the rust prevention was touted as being much better than the previous generation, it just wasn't that good. The usual areas where rust can happen, similar to the square bodies, is in the rocker panel area, above the wheel arches, the cab corners, and also the bottom of the doors. The good news is that the aftermarket has started reproducing sheet metal for these trucks, so you can repair those kind of damage, but the reality is it costs money. So be aware of rust. Make sure you tap around the bottom of those things looking for Bondo if you're looking for a truck. In the southern climates, look, we don't really rust out vehicles, we just wreck them. So I would try to find, if you're going to buy an OBS truck, the cleanest one you can. Mechanicals, relatively straightforward to repair. Body and paint, much more difficult, more expensive as well. So watch out for those tin worms on your OBS trucks, because it's an area you've got to be concerned about. Another thing is the dashes on those things. They went from a hard plastic in the earlier square body trucks to a more padded dash. The dash pads will crack over time as that padding underneath that top layer of vinyl starts to deteriorate. So dash pads and these things tend to go away as well. And really that leads to all the plastic stuff inside the interior as being issue number 2. A lot of the interior parts became that plastic, and when it's left out in the sun, not only would it fade, but it became very brittle. So all of your various armrests and your door panels, the top parts of your door panels, even a lot of your molding around the upper part of the cab inside is made of plastic. So you've got more plastic to be concerned about. The good news is, again, the aftermarket is starting to make reproduction panels for this, but it's something that you have to be aware of. Make sure you check out the interior. Not all these parts are available, many of them are, but plastic, that's going to be your number 2 issue. And a number 3 issue to look for, and this is common with GM vehicles, really from the 80s all the way through the 90s, even later, is the clear coat would disappear. Look, this stuff, GM had a real adhesion problem, and it really came about when they had to start meeting EPA mandates in regards to the emissions of the painting process. It's actually a materials issue and an adhesion issue, but a lot of these OBS trucks, you would see actually strips of paint and or clear coat just disappearing. As a matter of fact, I remember at one of the dealerships when I was younger, one of the tests they would use if they were going to warranty paint was they would take a strip of tape, put it on the hood, and jerk it off and see if it actually pulled the paint off. And if it did, that truck would qualify, or that car would qualify back in the 90s for a respray, because the paint just is not adhering. But clear coat vanishing was a real issue. Make sure when you look at your trucks, get up in the bed and look on top of the roof, but also the hood. Those are the 2 most common areas, not to mention the top of the bed rails, or also anything that's facing the sun upwards is going to be more likely to actually have the clear coat disappear. So make sure your paint has good adhesion. Make sure that the clear coat's in good shape. Now look, fortunately the patina look is really popular right now. So If you're looking for a truck, it's a good negotiation point if the clear coat is starting to disappear or actually starting to vanish. But just know that if you wanted to paint that truck is probably going to have to be taken all the way down to metal and resprayed, which can cost a considerable amount of money. So take the quality of the paint and also the clear coat into consideration when you're looking for your OBS truck to buy. And the final issue that we're going to talk about with the OBS trucks has to do with their brakes. And the reality is the brakes on the OBS trucks, especially the 1500 series, which only had an 11-inch rotor, and they were either 11-inch by 1 inch or 11-inch by 1.25 inch, they just weren't that robust. They were barely capable back in the day. And at today's speeds that we typically drive, especially if you add any more power or make the truck faster, you're going to want to address the brakes. The low drag calipers and the type of master cylinder that GM used back then, look, they were trying to get as much fuel economy out of this truck as possible. But what those things do, while on paper sound good, they create kind of a mushy brake pedal. Brakes are something you're probably going to want to upgrade on an OBS truck over time, especially if you're used to driving a modern truck. The good news is there's a lot of brake kits available, and First Place Auto Parts has the brakes and the restoration and performance parts you need for your OBS truck. But the reality is, even if they work properly, the OBS truck brakes, they left something to be desired. Classic pickup trucks are just plain cool. The OBS series trucks, made from 1988 to 1998, were incredibly capable. Look, they're good daily drivers today, and with the increased value of used trucks, even your late model stuff going through the roof, OBS trucks are a legitimate option if you're looking for, say, a pickup truck or maybe even a second or third vehicle for your home. The OBS trucks are capable, they're comfortable, and they're safe to drive. They're only getting more popular, so if you want one, you better get yours now before they become, just like the square body trucks, not so affordable. Guys, I appreciate you watching this video, and hopefully if you're looking for an OBS truck, this is giving you a little bit of insight into some things to look for and also some of the plus sides of the OBS. Look, they're really cool. I've owned a couple myself, and I'll be honest with you, it's a far better driving truck than my square body could ever hope to be, no matter what I do to my square body truck. At First Place Auto Parts, we have restoration performance parts for American muscle cars and trucks, everything you can need. It's open 24/7 and super easy to use, so the next time you need parts, whether it's to restore, to repair, or make it go faster, please visit our First Place Auto Parts website, guys. We're enthusiasts just like you, and we are continually adding new parts by quality vendors, brand names that you know, to our product listing. So please go to First Place Auto Parts for all your car and truck needs. Guys, until next time, keep the hammer down, keep it between the guardrails.